Hey everybody, this is Nick Apostolides. I play Leon in the recent RE2 remake, and you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast.
All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and I'm coming at you with another amazing interview, and this time it's going to be with the one and only Nick Apostolides. He is the voice and motion capture for Leon Scott Kennedy from Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it's such an honor to have him on. And in this episode, we're going to talk about a lot of things from his background, how he got into acting, him being a Renaissance man, being that he does sculpting, painting, fencing, carpentry, craftsmanship, and more. Some of his interests from gaming to things outside of it, the process of becoming a voice actor and an actor, and even more, all in this episode. So, in this Hawaii exclusive, if you're ready to do it, I'm ready to do it. Let's go ahead and welcome Nick Apostolides onto the show. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova. I'm here with the one, the only, the man, Nick Apostolides. Man, Nick, it's amazing to have you on the show.
That's awesome, and that's great pronunciation of my last name, so that's cool. But hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you're Italian, right? I'm assuming.
Italian and Greek split down right in the middle.
Right in the middle. All right. Yeah, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself, plug yourself, some upcoming ventures, and where people can find you.
All right. Well, my name is Nick Apostolides. You probably know that already. Just a down-to-earth type guy with a lot of hobbies, and of course, acting is one of them. That was a lot to cover. What'd you say there? Where to find me? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I do a lot of different things. I mean, I enjoy the arts. I have all my life. We can get more into that later because I don't want to mumble too much about all that. But
you can mumble, man. It's fine.
Well, you can definitely find me on Instagram and Twitter. I've been pretty active since the game has dropped, with the game being RE2 Remake, which we're very happy about, and the fans have been receiving that well. And as far as upcoming projects goes, I mean, as an actor, I'm always working on different things, and I'm actually doing something really different right now. Still working on my Mocap projects whenever I can. But I'm actually a builder. I've been in the trades for a long time, and I got cast in this 10-episode show that is kind of like a building documentary show that travels all over the world.
Oh, wow.
Almost every continent we're hitting, and we're helping communities in need, whether they need like a well dug for them, they need clean drinking water, or this needs to be renovated, or a clinic so people can get like medical help and attention. So it's really cool. I can't say much about it. It's not out yet, but we are working on the fifth episode, and we have a total of 10, and we're hoping to see these on television as soon as maybe July, August, September, something like that. So we're really excited for that.
Oh, so that's when we were, because the audience may not know this, we've been in talks for, I want to say, like the last month or two, and you've been traveling a lot, so that's okay, that's cool. Because you're also a carpenter and a craftsman, so that
right.
you got the skill set to be able to do that, man. That's amazing. And
it's unlike anything I've ever done. Now, I've been working with my hands all my life, but this is an opportunity to help literally thousands and thousands of people for generations to come. And when the show comes out, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But it's a really special opportunity.
Well, definitely, man. When it comes out, I'll definitely drop the link down in the description of the video, as well as the podcast. And you already know I'll put it all over my social media, because that right there, that's impactful, man. Giving back, helping people, I'm all about that.
It's very cool stuff.
But yeah, man, let's go ahead and get a brief background on yourself, man. You're a jack of all trades, man. Let's talk about it.
Well, that comes from my parents. anytime anyone asks me about this and where my passions come from, it's because my dad, he's a jack of all trades still. He built the home I grew up in when he was 21 years old with the rest of his family. In his family, they had carpenters, they had welders, electricians, plumbers, painters, you name it. So I grew up with a dad like that. I was very fortunate. And so I was always in the garage helping him do stuff when I was a kid, and I loved it. And then my mom, she's the most creative lady I've ever met. She does her crafting stuff, very artistic. She is a teacher for 3 to 5 year old autistic children, and she's very theatrical. So when you combine my mom, my dad, and you get someone like me, like I'm like kind of like a good mix of them both, and that's where my childhood was living, was in like building with Legos, drawing, sketching things, just trying to fix things that weren't even broke. And so that's kind of where I come from, and I've just never stopped since childhood.
Oh, that's really good, man. And it's something I think that's imperative, like when with those kind of traits that like your parents have, they passed it on to you, and then, you know, for your children going forward, you're going to pass it on. Like those skills are so important. It almost comes off like a lot of that's lost in this day and age where, you know, carpentry, you know, painting, sculpture, like the artistic arts, they're there, but they're not in the way like it was before, like with the different trades. Like now it's more so just, oh, I'm in IT, or I'm doing tech, or I'm doing this. But, you know, these are essential skills I think people should still know, like, oh, you know, on a basic level.
There's always going to be a demand for it, skilled labor like that. But times are changing. Yeah. The world is evolving. And when I was a kid, we didn't have all this technology, so I had a lot more time on my hands and less distractions. There was no Facebook or iPhones or stuff like that. And so to keep myself busy, of course I played video games, but I had more time. And so the creative energy just kind of flowed out of me. I'm not so in touch with the younger generations of today, but I know it's different.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, I believe you and I are around the same age range, and it's something.
I'm still 18, you, right?
Yeah. What are you talking about? I'm 17, man. No, it's just something like when I talk to a lot of the younger generation, like the kids that are now 18 or 16 or even 20, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I know what it was like before social media was a thing. I know what it was like before the internet was so prevalent that you have it at the tip of your finger, you know, your tip of your hand, or you have like a laptop or a tablet. Like I remember when tablets weren't even a thing, you know, when we had what is it, 56K modems and dial up. We grew up in an entirely different era, it seems.
We did, but I will say though that these eras can kind of mix and help each other. And what I mean by that is a lot of people have asked me or just told me that they're taking on these DIY renovation projects in their own home. And the good thing about the internet and the connection is that you don't have ever had to have picked up a hammer before, and you can look up a YouTube video of how to replace like a patch of drywall in your home, and you can do it yourself. Now that didn't exist like say 20 years ago. And you know, you had to hire someone to professionally do that. Now you can go to Home Depot, get what you need, and look on YouTube, and they'll tell you how to do it. So there are benefits to both generations for sure. Definitely.
What do you think about the push that we have now for automation? You know, with you know, the stuff that you're seeing, like, and I'm not sure if you've seen in like restaurants that you've gone to, like in I don't know if LA has this, but I know out here in Hawaii we have like some of the McDonald's and Jack in the Box and Burger Kings have fully automated things. You can just walk up and order it on the screen, and then they'll come and drop it to whatever table you're sitting at. And it's something. Like even some of the other places too, like some of our Home Depots out here have automation as well. Like, what do you think of that replacing a lot of the labor?
Well, I mean, very generally speaking, I think that you cannot stop progress. And so you can fight it all you want, but 50 years from now, our planet's going to be very different than it is right now. So you try to find the bright side of things and the advantages of our technology and how we're using it. As far as replacing jobs or taking jobs, I think jobs will be shifted.
Yeah.
I think, yes, robots will be doing some of the, like, say, menial labor. I mean, look at how the automotive industry changed when they got on the conveyor belts. Like, that replaced people way back in the day, but you can't stop it. And so I think jobs will be transferred into renewable energy, just thought leaders. And, I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm not looking at it as a huge negative. I'm trying not to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I think we have a bright future to look forward to, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Like with the transition of the jobs, it's just going to be. We're just going to go to doing a different thing. It's going to be a different skill that's going to be required, and basic labor. I mean, yeah, we can let the machines go do all the heavy lifting.
Someone has to build the machines,
right?
So I don't know. And then Terminators come, and then we're all doomed. But
right. Elon Musk has been talking about that kind of stuff lately. I saw that one Joe Rogan podcast. He's like, "Yeah, it's super advanced. I've been trying to stop it." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you can look at it in a negative, but then it's helping. In a way."
I think we do have to be wary about AI. That's one thing I do. I do think we need to open our eyes to that before we start making it too smart.
You want to dive into that? I have some thoughts on that too, if you want.
Mine will probably just end up with me talking about Terminator 2, but that's completely up to you. This is your podcast, man. So
yeah, let's
limit.
Let's dive into it, because I do have some concerns with it. Like I don't know if you saw that Google demo that they did last year, where they had the Google AI call the restaurant, and it had like all the mannerisms of a person, like with the ums, the ahs, the pauses, and the person on the other end couldn't tell that was an AI. I do think that is a bit concerning when we're blurring the line of can we distinguish what's real and what's not,
Yeah, it kind of goes. I just saw Jurassic Park recently, the other day, the original, and it's what Jeff Goldblum's character was saying there. Where he said, that they're so caught up in whether or not they could, that they didn't think if they should. Yeah. And I do think that scientists are approaching this carefully. I think they're smarter than that. But the thing is, so much of what we've seen in even films, some of the biggest visionary directors we've had, the one that comes to mind here is, of course, James Cameron. A lot of what these visionary directors have thought of and put on cinema, or in cinema, years and years, decades later, a lot of this is happening. It's like, so it goes along those lines of whatever mankind can think up, we can make it happen if we can think of the idea. And so the whole idea of the Terminator, with AI becoming smarter than humans and then becoming self-aware, realizing they don't need us, some of the AI they're doing right now, it's learning exponentially, and I think we're approaching fast that it will be able to process information in a more complex way than human brains. And so my question is, what would stop AI from taking over?
Exactly.
What would stop us pulling a plug? It has to do with the Terminator idea, and I don't think that's beyond the realm of reality.
Yeah, in going back to like some of the stuff that I've seen, like Elon Musk talk about over the last year, he's really been expressing that concern that its ability to learn is within mere minutes versus anything we can do. It could take us a lifetime or 2-3 generations to understand something that the AI can pick up in 2-3 minutes. So that's alarming, and especially if it becomes self-aware, which I kind of feel like it's an inevitability at some point.
Yeah, much of the training I do for films, I'm prepping myself for the apocalypse to fight Terminators. So
it makes you wonder too, like how with the movies, like you look at stuff like Blade Runner and whatnot, we're like, yeah, that would never happen, and we're slowly getting there. To there. Yeah.
People should be careful. I'm just saying. I'm not in a position to stop anyone, but I just think we should be very, very cautious.
We really should. And it's something too. Like I was using Google Maps to like look at one of my old where I grew up in both Western Samoa and in Memphis, Tennessee. My dad was military, so we moved all. I'm a military brat, so we moved all over the place. So I was looking at Google Maps, and it's able to go down on the ground floor. You can look around, and I'm like, wait, that's a lot of detail. Like, I know we have the satellites which can look down and take screenshots and whatnot, but it made me think about like our phones and how like, you know, there's all the data breaches with Google and how like they can access your camera, your microphone, whatever you use. And that, you know, we get the whole privacy concern there too. Like that's alarming to me.
Yeah. It's radical stuff, man.
Definitely. Well, you know, some of the other things I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of your interests and hobbies or things that you enjoy that the audience might not know about you?
Well, like I said, I had a really artistic upbringing, and I just got into a lot of different things because they were interesting to me. My first friend ever was an NES. That's how I got introduced to video games, and the rest is history. But actually, the first hobby I think I ever had was definitely drawing. I would come home from school when I was like 3-4 years old, and I would just grab my big bag of markers and all this loose paper, and I would just draw anything that came to my mind, and I collected them in this giant, big, huge folder. So I've been drawing and sketching all my life. I like pencil and charcoal as mediums. I got into, let's see, in no specific order, I started playing guitar when I was about 15. I loved heavy metal, 80s rock and stuff like that, so I started jamming on the guitar. I've been playing ever since. I like to write music whenever I can, but that hobby is sadly taken a back seat in the past couple of years. Let's see, I have a vocational culinary degree, so I took an extensive 4-year program in high school, and I worked in a restaurant there, and I did some food industry stuff, and I love to cook to this day. My girlfriend and I cook maybe 6 days a week, and it's great. Let's see, so many hobbies. I love the trades. I love to craft and build stuff. I like to work with leather and wood, glass and metal. Geez, what else?
You're like a modern day Renaissance man.
Well, I just like to keep busy with different hobbies and stuff, and it definitely it gives you a well-rounded life. And now, many years later, one of my newest hobbies is acting. I took it on as like a really life choice, like a career path at this point. But I realized that a lot of the different lives that I've led with my hobbies and passions and different industries I've worked in, what it allows me to do is relate to so many different types of people. I'm also Rec Master certified with a tow company. I used to work for AAA, and I did roadside emergency service. Wow. But I used to work in, say, Disney World. I also used to work in a doctor's office. So when you think about the clientele, the people you work with in a doctor's office as compared to, say, an automotive garage, these are very, very different types of people. And as an actor, I can relate to different types depending on the role that you're taking on, whether you're a blue-collar guy or a white-collar guy or anything in between. And so nothing is like a huge stretch for me. So serendipitously, it worked out, and it gave me a well-rounded perspective on different types of people.
Nice. And I can tell you're a very humble guy. I can just tell by listening to you talk, and man, that's cool. That's super cool, man.
Yeah, looking back, if I ever have kids, like I would urge them to try as many things as they want. My grandfather used to say that. He's like, just try different things. You never know what you're going to love, and you never know what you're going to be good at. Exactly. And so that whole idea and notion came down from my grandfather, trickled down to my dad, and then into me and my brothers as well. So it was a good, fortunate upbringing that we had.
Nice. And speaking of you being, an actor, so what is the process of becoming an actor, and what are some of your favorite roles that you've been able to act in?
Well, everyone has a different story of where they started. Some people get literally discovered in like a Starbucks, and they get thrown into that world. I started in Boston. It's a very small, tight-knit acting community. Started with student films. I think I was an extra on a major Hollywood production that came the the student films, you can play more of a substantial role starting out. You get a lead role because they're not casting your Brad Pitts. They're looking for whoever they can get. So I was lucky early on to book a couple lead roles, and I just fell in love with it, and I kept doing it from there. I jumped into the commercial world, and whatever I could find in Boston, I just wanted to keep busy by acting. And once about 2 or 3 years passed and I felt I was ready and I had a decent-sized portfolio and I had the training that I needed, then I ventured to California. And I've been acting in California, LA, for about 6 years now. So the whole process has been about 8 or 9.
Wow. And would you recommend, like, having an agent, or, what to look for if looking for an agent or anything like that?
Well, like I said, everyone's path is different. The whole, like, 8 years that I've been out here, I still don't have a theatrical agent.
Really?
But I still keep busy.
Wow.
I just landed one somewhat recently, but all of the work I've done, my entire body of work, has been without an agent. And it's not really by choice, it's just how it worked out. And I'm still finding a way to keep busy. So you just gotta, an agent absolutely helps. I don't recommend what I've done. This is just how my life has panned out.
Wow. And you've been very successful, like, without an agent. That's inspiring, man.
Well, the game is changing with the internet.
Yeah.
20 years ago, if you didn't have an agent here, you were dead in the water. Now, with the internet, you have casting sites. People like me, you could just see casting calls, you submit yourself, and you get called in for auditions, and if you're right for the part, you get some roles, and you just go from there. And that's how I've built my career personally.
It makes me think of, like, my background is, even though I'm in IT right now as a telephony analyst, my background is in marketing. I went to college for media marketing and small business development, and it's funny how when I was coming out of college, that's when social media was, like, kicking up, and I'm like, man, you really don't need a degree to do marketing now. You can just get on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and boom, there you go. You're your own marketing. Like, you don't, a firm helps, but I'm even noticing that with, like, when it comes to, like, video game companies or tech companies that are releasing a product, kind of like I do reviews for video games and tech products, and I've spoken to a lot of the people in their PR departments, and they're like, yeah, it's actually more cost effective for us to work with, like an influencer or a YouTuber or someone who has a presence, and send them a copy of a game or a item that they have them talk about it and have it organically grow, than to pay a marketing firm hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions just for like a 10-second clip. So, like, the internet. Go ahead.
In certain ways, the internet is simplifying things and complicating them at the same time.
Exactly.
But what I'm noticing is that the rules to success are crumbling. You know, and there's really no rhyme or reason to what happens at this point. It's like whatever works, you just do it. Before, you needed a college degree if you wanted to get anywhere in life. And now we have 16-year-old YouTubers. Some of them don't have a skill on the planet, and they're millionaires. And so the rules are crumbling, and so I just think it's interesting to see what's happening and living through this.
It really is, and especially, like, in our era growing up, like, we were told, like, we needed to, get a college education and go from there. And it's like, now, like you said, like, YouTube, you got, remember Vine? When people, when Vine was blowing up, and it's just amazing the ways that you can make an income and a living for yourself, a career, and literally with anything. And like you said, you could go on YouTube or you can Google stuff and learn anything in this day and age. You want to learn a language, you don't need to take a course. You can just get Rosetta Stone or Duolingo. Like, it's amazing the progress that we're going through.
Changing quick.
Yeah. Being from Boston, man, how has the transition been for you so far, going from Boston to California, as well as altering your accent? Because I'm not hearing your Boston accent at all.
No, I never had one, to be honest.
Wow.
I don't know. I just always pronounce my R's, but I can do the accent like pretty easily. And actually, I had an interview a little while ago, and what definitely pops out here that people get is the lowercase O's, and that's what really gets me. I can pronounce my R's all day long, or I can drop them. It's not a big deal. But when I talk fast or when I'm really passionate about something, my lowercase O's always sound like they're from the East Coast, like New York or Boston. And what I mean by that is, like, if I was to say like lobster, it's got that weird like lob rather than lobster. So people catch me on that, and I do have to sometimes like redo takes because of that. They hear the Boston, but I don't catch it.
Oh, wow.
It's hard for me to fix that sometimes.
Man, that's I can understand that transition. Like for me, I didn't learn English until I was 7. I grew up in Western Samoa, and when we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where my dad's from, when he got stationed there, I had to pick up English, and I picked up Southern English. And so I spoke that, all the way up until I came out to Hawaii when I was, I think I want to say 15, 16 years old. And people were like, "What are you saying? I don't understand you." So the last like 16, 17 years, I've basically been trying to like eliminate my Southern drawl or Southern lingo. So it's sometimes I don't catch it. I don't know if I'm sounding Southern now.
No. You sound very neutral right now. Good job.
But it's just years of like people like, man, I can't what but it's like if I speak to other Samoans in Samoan, because that's my native language, they're like, oh, okay, I don't pick up on an accent, but when you speak English, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's regionalism for you. So nobody out here wants the Boston accent. Once in a blue moon, I see a casting for a Boston accent, and I nail it every time, but I never see it. And especially in RE2, they didn't want any regionalized sounding anything. So there was one scene, the scene with you've played the game, I assume.
Oh yeah. I got a review copy of it. It was really good.
Oh, awesome. So the scene with Kendo and his daughter, there's a little line that I have where when we were filming it, the line was written as helping people like them. That's why I'm a cop. And we did it like 5 times, and the director kept on telling me, he's like, it's not a cop, it's a cop. So do it again. And every time I was so excited and so into the scene, it just came out. That's why I'm a cop. So I sound like Marky Mark. And so I said, you know what? Let's do it one more time, and I'm going to change up the line. And so I said, helping people like that. That's why I joined the force. And he's like, good, print it. Okay. So sometimes I just can't fix it, and I'm not doing it on purpose.
Oh, man. Like, okay, so, going back to acting, what does it take for you to get into character? Like, when you were trying to get into the character of Leon, or for any of the movie roles that you've done or TV shows, like, what is the process for you to become the character? Are you like a method actor, or?
Very much method actor.
Okay.
Yes, I learned that early on that works for me, and I just kept it that way. Every role is different, though. Every role requires a different amount of prep. Mm-hmm. Some require very little prep if it's a character close to my own personality. Some require a ton amount of prep if it's someone who I don't relate too much to. Mm-hmm. But it really depends. Like, playing with energy levels is a big deal. With playing Leon, I was very familiar with his character. I've been playing his character for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I knew about his relationships in the game. I knew who he was, especially in the original. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my personality in real life is very similar to his. And I think Capcom saw that in me, and that's why they had me portray him this time around. But the only thing I kind of tweaked, I didn't even change my voice to sound younger. All I did was I went into the room to film every day with good, positive energy. And that's because a guy like him, he's very earnest and honest. He's like a Boy Scout. He always wants to do the right thing and eventually save the day. And so that's a very positive outlook on things. And so I just upped that a bit. Some characters I play are the complete opposite, where you have to get in this depressive state and focus on bad shit that has happened in your life. This was not the case. So for Leon, it was just being about happiness and positiveness every single day.
You brought up energy a couple times. I want to know, like, are you like kind of like when I had Ruben Langdon on? We talked a lot about off air and on air about energy, and positive.
Yeah, he's all about that. Yeah. I enjoyed talking with him.
Like, are you into that as well, or?
Yeah, probably not as deep as someone like he is. He's got a lot to say, and he's a very intriguing guy. Yes, I do believe in energy and the universe, very much so. I don't know if I'd be able to get into the nuts and bolts of what I feel like. That gets to a pretty deep place. But, yeah, I am all about that, and I think it affects us more than most people realize. Yeah. And I try to be conscious of it whenever I can.
Okay. I mean, I was gonna say, like, if you want to dive in it, you can, because I mean, it's whatever it is to you, and I think we have a similar mindset when it comes to that. Because energy, I believe, like, you can have a really shitty day, but if you have like a positive outlook and positive energy, it really can turn that whole thing around. I'm
all about that. I think one's perspective is probably one of the most powerful things that you can wield as a human, is your perspective on how you see things.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I said I work in a hospital. I was one of the nurses I was working with. I think she's working with a patient that has a disability. And she was talking about how, like, she felt really bad for him. She bringing negative energy in a way, like, and I can understand, like, the empathy she was having. She was saying, like, it's really, she feels really sad for the person that they're having a disability, the disadvantage. And I'm like, well, you could change the way you look at that, because the person is very happy.
Exactly.
And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, even despite what we would perceive as a handicap or a challenge, that person is making the best of it, and they're happy. And if they're bringing that positive energy, then amplify it, work with it,
Yeah, exactly. I'm all about that. We did this, actually, I was going to talk about one of the episodes on my building travel show, but I don't think I can dive into it. I just had an anecdote that goes along right with what we're talking about here, but I probably can't spoil certain things. But I'll just say I agree with you.
Yeah, man, I've learned perspective and energy is really, really vital. I've learned it in my own life. Like, I've been through some stuff. Like, I'm 3 years in remission on cancer. And,
well, congratulations. That's amazing.
And it's something, like, one of the doctors just told me, he's like, be positive. I know we gave you a prognosis. It wasn't good. It wasn't looking good for me. But I had a really good doctor. It's like, just be positive. Eliminate the stress as much as you can. And if you can't, look at it in a better perspective. I've been through other stuff, from homelessness to, other stuff. And it's just positivity has helped me. Positive energy has helped me tremendously. So
it can change everything, man.
It really can, But yeah, I feel like we went on a little tangent there.
It's okay. There's no rules here.
Exactly. Knowing that you are a huge fan of not only Resident Evil, but also Capcom as a whole, how did it feel for you to have the opportunity to work on and star as one of your favorite characters in Leon Kennedy? And I know you've gotten this question before, and you're probably going to get it a lot more. But
well, it's probably one of the best questions, just because however you think that would be for me, that's what it was, times 100 plus 50. Oh my God, it's just like, I can't even describe in words what it was like to be able to work for the game company that I've been playing. We're talking way before Resident Evil. I'm talking Mega Man days. I was playing Mega Mans when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and so that's what started my love affair with Capcom. And then I went right to Street Fighter when Super Nintendo came out, and then when PlayStation came out, I was introduced to Resident Evil. So it's just I've been a Capcom fan all my life, and to work with them, just to kind of fall into this opportunity was just like it's blowing my mind as I talk to you right now. So hasn't fully hit me just yet.
You know, and that's the thing is, I was talking to someone that's younger generation. They're like, why? You know, they're like, oh, Capcom seems like they're putting out really good stuff. I'm like, you don't understand the history of Capcom. Like, if you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, Capcom,
they were everything.
They really were. Like, especially if you're going to the arcades. Or you had an NES. Oh my goodness!
I still play Mega Mans with my little brother. Like every time I go back for the holidays, we'll pop in like Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, all the originals. They're that good, and that they were that big of my like a big. Let me try that again. They were such a huge part of my childhood, and they still are. So, Capcom is as big of a part of me as anything else.
Like I remember growing up like playing same as you, man. Mega Man 1, 2, 3. I remember Strider, Bionic Commando.
Yes, Bionic Commando. I played that too.
Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing back then.
And they were constantly popping out like hit after hit after hit. Like, and they were always willing to do different. And
yeah, they were masters of the 8-bit world.
Yeah. But man, I'm happy for you, man, being able to portray one of your favorite characters and to work with the company that you're a fan of. Like that's a true blessing.
Well, one of these days I want to make it to Osaka, Japan, where their headquarters is, and I want to go thank the top dogs there and just express to them how much it means to me and how much they have meant to me all my life.
Yeah, I believe sooner than you think that's going to happen, man.
Hope so.
With the audition process for Resident Evil 2, like, what was that like for you? Like, was it difficult, or was it just, hey, I'm going in, I'm going to give it my best, and then boom, hey, like you? No,
it was, I put a lot more emphasis on it than that. Some auditions I treat like that. I just go in, just do my thing, and kind of wing it. But no, this one, there's no way, there's no reality that I was not going to get this role in my head. So I had to do some research. Luckily, I had the gun and movement training from my friend James. I've been doing action films for quite some time now. So I had the movement down, the physicality down. I knew the character. But, of course, I had to work out the scenes. So I reached out to a few friends of mine. My girlfriend helped me work through the scenes as well, just to bounce off ideas of what would make this intriguing, these dramatic moments, because that's what they focused on in this game. It wasn't an action game. It never was going to be a full-on action game. This was a dramatic suspense game. It's not like Resident Evil 5 or 6. And so it was all about the dramatic elements and selling those relationships. So I just did my training. I didn't know what to expect in a mocap audition. I had never done one. I didn't know the difference. And so I reached out to a friend who has been in like 30, 40 games at this point. She's a pro, like a veteran of mocap. She just said, she gave me a few pointers, but the piece of advice that changed everything for me and gave me the confidence I needed was, she said, disregard the fact that you don't have mocap or theater on your resume. That's what they requested. They wanted it. She said, don't be afraid of that. Just go in and know that the mocap world is like the wild, wild west.
Really?
Anyone can book a role. If you're right for the part, you can book a role. You don't have to be this big famous guy with 100 games under his belt to book a lead role like this. And when she said that, it changed everything. So I went in without a care in the world. I didn't have any doubts. That squashed any doubts that I had. So I went in there, just kicked ass and did my thing. And maybe 2 or 3 auditions later, I had the part.
Wow. And you've been working on this from the mocap to the voice work for the last 4 years, 4 years?
It was like a 2.5 year process, off and on.
Oh.
So, yeah, it took a very long time. There were hiatuses and breaks that we took to rework scripts and everything, but it was really long. I booked the game probably early 2016, and it came out 2019.
Wow. That's amazing, man. And
it's a long time to keep your mouth shut.
I know.
Killed me.
It's one of those things where it's like when they announced the game, I'm wondering if your story is similar to like I think we have a mutual friend in Michael T. Coleman.
Yeah.
He was telling me like when Cody got announced for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, he said people were like, "Hey, that's you," and he's like, "Huh? That's me? I don't know. I don't know who that is." Like you can't say anything.
No, nobody said anything to me. They didn't recognize my voice, even friends.
Wow.
So I just still, like, when E3 hit and the trailers dropped, of course it was a really exciting time, but still I had to act like I didn't do it. It's not me, but it's cool, guys.
Well, when your take on Leon, did you take anything like in the sense of like, I guess you could say like channel like some of like Paul Mercier's or Matt Mercer's like takes on Leon, or was this is all you?
Well,
what you knew?
Well, here's the thing about that is I've spent too many hours of my life playing all of those games. RE2, RE4, RE6. I've seen all the CG movies. So their performances, first of all, are awesome. I grew up with them. They were everything. That's why I'm such a fan of Leon. It's not because of me. It's because of them. And it's impossible to just forget and ditch everything I've seen in all those hours. So, of course, there was influences in every single one of them that came through in my performance. But having said that, this is a rewind, right? So Matthew Mercer's take on Leon is a much older, gruff, more experienced Leon. He's very different than from Paul Haddad's in '98. So Leon couldn't start out this gruff badass. He couldn't have those moments because he was still a Boy Scout. It was like his first day on the job. He's 21 years old. So, like I said, to wrap this up, it's impossible to forget everything I've seen and experienced. But I did just I really injected my own personality into this guy because young Leon is very close to how I feel I am in real life. And I think that plays a part in why I got cast.
Cool. In playing Resident Evil 2, were you surprised at how difficult it was? Like, and this is assuming you're a Resident Evil fan. I'm sure you've beaten this game time and time again, the new one.
No, I haven't played it yet.
Are you serious?
I have a tradition with my brother and my cousin Garrett, and every time a new Resident Evil has come out, starting with 3, I've always played it with them, always. And whether it was like pulling 2 all-nighters and playing at night in the dark, and we start it all the way to the finish. And I can't break that tradition with this game. Oh, okay. So they live on opposite coasts. They live in the Boston area. I live in LA. I haven't had a chance to go home just yet. But when RE7 came out, it came out like January one year. I had to wait until December of that year, about 11 months later, to play the game because I wasn't with them.
Wow. Okay, I won't speak on it then. I was gonna say
no spoilers.
All right, then I'll transition the question around. So, what do you think of like the progression with the Resident Evil series when it went from survival horror or thematic horror to more action adventure? A lot of people seem to dislike the more emphasis on the action with, starting with 4 and going all the way to 6. How did you feel about it?
I can see why a lot of hardcore fans were disappointed with the direction, but I gotta say, like 4, 5, and maybe 6, I've played those probably more often just because they were more accessible, like especially 5 with the co-op feature, right?
Yeah.
I played 5 so much with my younger brother because it was so fun to strategize and kill zombies together. So 4 we played more than probably any title, just because it was, I think, one of the greatest games ever.
Yeah.
And so I understand where they're coming from. The reason I fell in love with the Resident Evil franchise is because of the first 3. I'd say 1, 2, and 3. The survival horror aspect, it was true. And the fact that you know, if you were at a save point with 3 bullets and you couldn't get past this one part, like, the challenge was there. It was awesome. And then, of course, they went with larger amounts of zombies with 50 different weapons you could choose from. So the franchise changed, but I liked them all for different reasons. And I'm just a hardcore fan. All of them.
Even with 6? A lot of people really don't like 6, and I enjoyed it for what it was, but I can see how, you know, it was divisive. Because I know Resident Evil 4 is very divisive for a lot of people.
It was. It went over the shoulder. They lost the tank controls. With 6, I appreciate what they were trying to do. One thing that I really am impressed with is, first of all, there's about 4 different games in 6. 4 different ways you can play that game. Each way has its own game style, and they tried to kind of summarize and sum up everything that Resident Evil had been. Leon's campaign was closer to the originals with less zombies and a little bit more of the survival horror aspect. Jake's story, it kind of felt like a Nemesis game where you're being chased by the villain the whole game. Chris and Pierre's story, that was more like 5 and 6 with just the action-oriented, very like military style. And then Ada's was more focused on stealth. And so the fact that they tried to implement all of that and give gamers like something they'd be happy with, I appreciate that. I think the way that all the stories intertwined at key parts, I think it was an impressive undertaking. Very far stray from Resident Evil 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to each his own, I guess. I enjoyed it. We played it quite a bit.
And what about Resident Evil 7 going fully
Loved
into
it. Loved it. You know, that's another polarizing title because there's no Chris, there's no Leon, well, until the end. I thought for the first time in so many years, they took me back to being like anxiety-ridden with just trying to hide from this crazy family, especially Jack in the beginning.
Yeah.
I hadn't felt that tension for a long time. 4, to me, was an incredible game. I don't think it was necessarily tense. Some of the battles were hard, but hiding from Jack at the beginning in a first-person setting in POV virtual reality, that was just, oh my goodness, I was having a heart attack. And that's what I want from these games, ultimately.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because my wife actually played 7 in VR on the highest difficulty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're insane.
It's nerve-wracking, but that's what these games started out to be. That's what started it all. Resident Evil has always been about pushing the boundaries and breaking molds.
Yeah.
It was the original first survival horror game, Resident Evil 1, in my opinion. And, you know, it started that whole genre. And then it changed it and adapted it again with 4. And now with this VR, it was actually the first entire VR game that was ever released. There was a bunch of demos and partial games. This was the first one. And Capcom said, yeah, we'll take it on. And, you know, they had to start that like dialogue of just testing out new ideas. And the fact that they dropped their main characters out of it and had this story out in wherever it took place, Alabama, Virginia.
Yeah.
You know, it's different, but I saw past that right away. And to me, that was still a Resident Evil game.
And what do you think, like, going forward, like, with possibly Resident Evil 8, or I've heard rumors that they might be remaking 3, but, like, for the franchise going forward, like, with Blue Umbrella, like, how do you feel like they could progress the story now, like, since they brought back Chris at the end?
Yeah.
Spoilers for those of you who haven't played the game, and it's been out for, what, 2 years now? Spoilers. But how do you feel like with the story going forward? Like, what do you think we might see next?
I have no idea what to expect. I don't know the direction they're going. I just know that I think they felt 7 was a success. Mm-hmm. It didn't bomb by any means. Definitely the RE2 remake is a huge success.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see what direction they take it. I just don't know.
RE2 was such a success, especially out here in Hawaii. It sold out statewide.
Everywhere. You couldn't, after a week of it being on sale, you couldn't find it in a store.
Yep.
So that's a good sign.
That is definitely a good sign, man. So, like, you know, obviously you're a huge gamer. Like, outside of, you know, Resident Evil and Mega Man, like, what other games do you enjoy? Like, or what are some of your favorite, like, Capcom games or any type of games, like, that you enjoy that the general public may not know?
I still enjoy just Nintendo games. I have an old NES, and I have a couple like emulators and stuff, and I still enjoy those NES titles, Super Nintendo games, some Sega. Geez, I wish I prepped for this question, because I could give you a list of like 50 games that I would play right now.
Go for it.
I would leave your podcast and go play right now. Battletoads, forget it.
It's coming back, man.
There's so many titles that I would play, and nowadays that I have PS4, I even play games like Rocket League. I love that game. My buddy James, who taught me all my gun stuff, he got me into first-person shooters. I didn't like them before, but he introduced me to like Tom Clancy games, like Splinter Cell. That's third person, but
Rainbow Six and whatnot.
Yeah, games like Rainbow Six. Like, I'm a huge fan of that. I like Final Fantasy VII. Was one of my favorite games of all time, still is.
Ooh. And
the fact that I think they're remaking that one is pretty incredible.
It's going to be 3... So what they're doing is it's going to release in episodes, 3 different episodes, they're saying.
That's great, because they need to do each one justice. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Games like that. Just like a lot of the old classics and some of the newer ones. I'm not as big of a gamer as some people that I know, but I do love them. I wish I could be a professional gamer and just play every day, but I have my hands on a lot of things right now, so I don't have that free time right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned like Battletoads, because I know you know they're coming back with a new entry.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's we got the teaser. I want to say a couple months ago, we got a teaser for it. They just
if I could do the mocap for like Rash or Zit, oh my god, that would be awesome.
Well, I mean, Rare's making it. I got some people I know at Rare. I could put you in touch with them.
Oh my goodness. I just got the goosebumps.
Yeah, like it was a shocker because I remember I tweeted at them. I want to say a year or two ago. I'm like, hey, when are we gonna get a new Rare game from you? Like, I know you guys have been like experimenting over the last 2 decades. Like, when are we gonna get a new Battletoads or a Battletoads Double Dragon? Because that was fun. They're like, you'll see. And then when I remember seeing the trailer, and all they had was the Battletoads theme and the logo. They're like, coming soon. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, so that means they're just probably in development right now. They probably maybe have not even recorded. So if you could hook me up with them, if I could be a Battletoad, that would just like solidify my whole life.
I will definitely put you in touch with them.
Okay.
Oh man, like the fact that you're into Battletoads, dude, it's so rare for me to find someone that likes like Battletoads or Double Dragon or Bad Dudes or Final Fight. Like,
played all of those. They're classics, and that's what I grew up with.
It's crazy, man. Like, we're getting so much stuff from the past coming back. Like, there's a new Streets of Rage. I was shocked at that.
Yeah, that's cool too. They were very good back then. Some of the games were simple. They were fun. The original Batman for NES is one of my favorite games. Hard as crap. I've never beat it. It's one of my favorite games. It's probably my favorite game that I've never beat.
That one I think I probably got to like the 5th level, and I was like, yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
it is something too. Like I've noticed, like even with the different generation of gamers, like for us, we had to rely upon the manual and just figuring out how to play a game by trial and error. Or a lot of games now is you've got a tutorial before you even really get to experiment with the game. But
yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like as gaming has changed.
Like I said, you can't stop progress. What I find now in today's games, they're definitely more immersive because they're treating them like films, like cinematic pieces. They're just evolving. I mean, it's like oranges and apples back in like the 85 when NES came out, whenever that year was. And today's games, it's just you can't compare them. But I do give props to the pioneers who started developing those games, and they tried to put as much as possible, even into the 8-bit games, and they wanted to make that as like a perfect puzzle back then. And now when you look, what's it, like 35 years later,
yeah,
how far they've come and how much they feel like movies. You feel like you're inside of them, and look at the industry on the whole. I think it's more successful than the film industry. It has surpassed that as far as just like gross profits go, and it's just, I'm really happy for where it's going, and I think we're still at the baby stages still. I think with the advent of VR and AR, I think we're going to get some super immersive experiences coming, and we've only seen like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like when you're looking at like how graphics have come from the 8-bit era to now. Like I recently I beat Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 2, and those games, the graphics alone are
near photorealistic, some of these games.
I mean, down to like details in the hair, the muscles, the blemishes on the skin. I'm like, holy crap. In the 80s and 90s, I never would have thought we would have gotten this far, this quickly.
Speaking of that, here's a little fun tidbit that hasn't been on a podcast yet. As a joke, you see on my face, I have a couple birthmarks, like little moles on my face because I'm Mediterranean. And as a joke, when they were still designing the character, I said, hey, you can make him look like me, that would be cool. I said, you can even, if you get creative, you can put my moles on the character. And they just kind of laughed it off. And if you look at some of the screenshots of Leon, they actually put a couple of my moles on my face on Leon's character.
Oh,
so
wow.
I just saw this like recently, and I think it's hilarious because I was just joking around, and they actually did it.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. Yeah, because talk
about photorealistic.
Yeah, because I remember looking at his face. I was like, wait, this is different than all the other facial stuff from the other Leons. Okay, I didn't know that was from you. Oh,
yeah, the little tiny moles are right off my face.
So I wanted to ask, like, like, what is it like to do motion capture and wire work? Like, if you were to do like a rundown to give the audience like a glimpse of how that works.
Well, with mocap, it's very similar to theater acting. And the reason I say that is because there aren't necessarily close-ups or medium shots or wide shots that you get with film. With theater, you just kind of act out the scenes just in their entirety. And that's what they like to grasp because of the technology and the price it takes to render all that footage. So you just act out the scenes, pretty long takes, not a lot of cuts. So you have to be, number one, prepared. Number two, you have to use your imagination a lot because a lot of the settings that you're in, like, for instance, when Leon was down in the sewers, we are not filming on location in sewers. We're filming in a big empty warehouse, and you're surrounded by 80 or 90 infrared cameras. So you have to imagine that the settings are there. That has to affect your performance. A lot of props are just pieces of wood or whatever looks like the prop, and they would have the markers on it, and then they animate it later. So, like I said, you just got to use your imagination. As far as the wire work goes, that's fun, but it's not as easy as it looks. I just did a project that required a lot of wire work and a lot of stunts, and it's really physical stuff. But when you see the final product, you understand why people use them, because it You can really like hurl a human body, and it kind of reacts the way that it normally would. And you're on a wire, so you don't die, which is great.
All right. And how often do you get to work with other actors like Ruben Langdon or Michael T. Coleman or Richard Epcar? Or
Well, there's a lot of projects going on, and so I've actually only worked with Ruben on this one project for RE2, and for Michael Coleman, I actually just really met him in person for the first time today.
Wow.
At a motion capture class. We're kind of in the same community, and I think we may have talked online a few times, maybe through Facebook. But I met him, I recognized the face, and I said, "Hey, Michael T. Coleman, how you doing?" He's a really nice guy, and he said the nicest things about you as well.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't gotten the opportunity to work with them very often, no, unfortunately.
Okay. My last question here would be like, what advice would you give to the audience that are interested in getting into the industry, be it acting, voice acting, action movies, or stunt work, or any of the sort?
I've given this piece of advice to a lot of people in the past, and it hasn't changed. If you want to do this and you want to get into films and acting, I would say first and foremost, you gotta want it for the right reasons. It's kind of complicated, but I see a lot of people get crushed out here if they don't reach the goal that they want. A lot of people seek fame out here in LA. They want to get big and famous right away because they see a lot of our social media stars and what have you. Personally, I mean, everyone's going to have a different route that they travel, a different path. And for me, when I came to LA, I didn't underestimate the numbers here. I tried not to get intimidated by them, but I didn't underestimate them. And so what I did was I set very realistic, attainable goals often, rather than my one goal is fame. Because if I didn't reach it after 2 years, I'd be crushed if I dedicated my life to it. So I focused on the smaller goals, getting my first booking, then getting my first 5 bookings, training with firearms. I saw everything as a success. And for anyone who's going to dive into this, you know, if you're passionate about it, go for it. I really urge you to try it, because you never know if you're going to like it. You never know if you're going to be good at it, like my grandfather said. But just put in the work. If you expect overnight success, it's not going to happen. This is a marathon. For most everyone I've met in this industry, it's a marathon. It's not a race. So you got to be patient, pay your dues, put in your work, and see every little success as a big success.
Exactly. That's great advice. Thank you for that. I think a lot of people can take away there's so much people can take away from that, man. That can apply to anything, almost everything. And I appreciate you giving that advice on the show. And again,
it boils down to perspective, like we said.
Yeah.
It's how you see it.
Yeah. Definitely, man. Like I want to thank you for I know you're really busy. I appreciate you taking time to be able to do this podcast with me, and to tell people again where they can find you, and I'll leave links to that down in the description of the podcast.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, because my last name is pretty long. So the best place is just, I would say, my Instagram page and also my Twitter page. And so you pop those down there and they can see how you spell it.
Cool. All right, and people, you'll be able to catch this interview, this podcast on youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova. You can also catch it on iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podcast One, whenever they decide to give the green light, because they're taking forever. I don't know why. And coming.
Wow, look at you! You're like an octopus. You get your tentacles everywhere.
Definitely. I just, I was like, hey, can I get on this platform? Oh, I can. Okay, cool. Can I get on this one? Oh, awesome. All right. I'll just keep going, because I just figure, hey, people, maybe someone doesn't have iTunes. Maybe they don't have Google Play. Maybe they don't have Spotify. Hey, they can catch it however they want to catch it. So that was my logic. And yeah, people, with that being said, that wraps up this podcast. And Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We got to get you back on again. Whenever you're free, I know you're busy, but we can get you back on. You got my number. I got your number. We'll stay in touch. And yeah, that wraps up this episode.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. It's been a pleasure, and it's really been awesome talking with you. Hope the fans like it, and I hope they enjoy the game, too.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Kasanova Podcast? Well, I hope you did. And if you did, please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And let us know what we can improve upon, what you liked, what you didn't like, and all that good stuff. And just make sure you always have a good time. That being said, this is your boy Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber. I am signing out, and I'll catch you on the next episode.